I know this is city-owned property, and it is possible for us to move and do some residential and commercial development on it. The rest of the lands are not available for us to do development on at this point. The Land Development Committee is working on acquisition of land, and so in order for us to move something forward, this is the only piece we can do.
Mr. Gardner?
Two questions. One is really a comment, but it's a question on what the development that you're looking at. I was in Windsor not too long ago, and one of the things that the developers did was allowed some park space in front of those buildings so that the residents had access to the waterfront. Is that in the plans for this building? One of the important things, excuse me for cutting, I didn't mean to do that, I'm sorry. One of the important things for me, if I'm going to accept the proposal, is going to be that our residents have access to the waterfront. I don't want to cut them off of the building.
No, our residents would have access to the waterfront because the bike path, the recreational path would be moved between the building and the marina, so there's space there.
The developers in Windsor were forced by the city to put some parks in for the flowers.
I think we would be very careful about that in the same way that we were careful about the development of down the east end on the old Cornwall property, that we secured land for a recreational path to go along the waterfront. So we're always very conscientious about access for the public to the waterfront.
The other question is, have the last two environmental study been done or begun yet?
No, nothing has been done because really we're seeking permission from council to go to public consultation on this. So if we don't have the approval of council, then we don't do anything.
There's one councilor that gave you approval. I've
Thank
been
you.
waiting 50 years, so get started.
Councilor Grant, followed by Councilor Rivette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to further discuss Councilor Gardner's concern, everything that we talk about from the Waterfront Development Committee is to ensure there's links to the waterfront. In the developmental plans that we have, that there are links down to the waterfront for pedestrians to come. So that's be assured that that's in the plan.
Thank you for that. Councilor Rivette?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know the hard work the waterfront does. I sat on the waterfront, the original committee with Chuck Sharp was back in the 80s when I was at the Marina. I believe we've got to develop the waterfront. That location to me is not the place to start. I think that's tight. You'll block the whole area. I know there's some lands back towards the Riverdale area, right along the waterfront there, right across Paul, you've got there. A lot of land there. I don't think we should be placing a large building like that in the middle of our park, in the middle of an area where it's very visible. That's the only view that the residents have. But I think that it's I don't want to discourage you from looking at other places, but I think we have to make sure, and it's very easy to say, don't talk to the public. Well, don't you spinning your wheels for nothing if you're not going to have the support around the table. And I think, I would have a hell of a hard time supporting that because I don't think that's the location. Thank you.
Councilor Shaughnessy?
Thank you, Mr. Thank you for the presentation. I see you've been busy, which is always good. But then again, on the same note, is that the waterfront master plan was done by the people of Cornwall that took into consideration their wishes on what they want to see. Although it's city-owned land, it belongs to the people, not to council, not to anybody else. But then again, is that until they're consulted, we don't know on how they feel. Where I have a little bit of concern is that what this consultation is going to be like. It's going to be held on a Saturday afternoon, we get a snowstorm, nobody shows up, so everything is fine. Or is it going to be something like the police department when they do things, they do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different nights where people have an opportunity to come in and comment on it. And, the waterfront always seems to draw a lot of opinions from a lot of people. And I'm not afraid, or I'm not against listening to what they have to say. Personally, I have to agree with Councillor Rabat, mainly because it's a recreational area. You know, and that's what it's known for. But then again, is that I'm not afraid to go to the people to see what they're like. And so I would just become a little bit concerned, and prior to me agreeing to anything, I would like to see before us in some way, in the way of a report on exactly how the consultation is going to be done, and who's going to organize it, and who's going to manage it. So I think, Mr. Mayor, if we're going to discuss it under the report, at that point in time, I can make the recommendation or make the motion then that we get a further report that explains to us fully what this consultation period is going to be like.
Thank you for that, Councillor Murphy.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, through you, good presentation. And again, kudos on the work. I have a question. What's the thought process behind this location? Basically, why this location?
Well, as I mentioned, it is the only city-owned property. It's the only piece of property on the waterfront that we can actually start doing something about, because the rest is not in our hands.
So my concern, like Councilor Shaughnessy-Marvet, is that you talked about it's in the middle and it goes along with all these other buildings. Well, all the other buildings in the immediate area is recreation. And whether you're dealing with water, the marina on the left, or the complex on the right, curling club, aquatic center, the ball diamonds, smack dab in the middle you have condos. There is segregation there that I have concerns with. But with that said, I have no problem going to the public either. You may not like what the public has to say. And I'm sure your committee is well aware that there's going to be both sides in this argument. It's going to be a pretty good chunk of people on both sides. But I just, I'm going to need to be sold that this is a location, because right now I'm not. Thanks.
Mr. Tebow, followed by Councillor Duval.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess a couple of points that we made. It is the only part that the city actually owns. So no matter what we would like to do as far as waterfront development, we really can't do a thing until such time as we acquire more land. That piece, the city does have the option of development if the community agrees to it. I think Councillor O'Shaughnessy brings up a good point. Whatever we do as far as community consultation has to be a full community consultation that's respected in some fashion as being properly done. Point brought up by my colleague Councillor Rivette, as far as the view to the waterfront and that kind of thing, there are no residents in that particular area looking down at the waterfront. If we were talking about Labrador Park or some of the other areas that we may be looking at for development in the future, it would be a different situation. But what I like about this proposal is that it does not touch the ball diamonds, and it does not touch in any way, shape, or form Labrador Park. And the recommendation also does not necessarily stipulate condos. It talks about residential or commercial and commercial. So it could be a number of different things. And to some extent, the issues brought up about recreation and so on, it could be part of that. Who knows what it could be? Right now, all we have is a potential concept of what could we do with that piece of land if the community was to say, bring to us some plans of some of the things that could be happening on that site. And if whatever is brought forward makes sense, obviously, to council and to the community, it may be something that the community buys into. But I think we're at just the first stage of saying that there's possibilities for this piece of land. We have already a waterfront plan that's been approved from 2007. I think what the committee is asking for is the opportunity to consult the community as to whether the community is interested in the possibility of making a small adjustment to the waterfront development plan that would allow for that particular site to move forward. And I would hope that what we would do at this point in time is turn over this presentation to administration and allow administration to come back to council with a process that we could analyze and address the issues that some of my colleagues have brought up, your worship.
I'm sure we'll get into all those items on the
Yeah,
communications.
that's right.
We'll see that.
So it's not an easy thing to deal with, because the community is split on the waterfront development and how we're going to do it. So I'm hoping that we'll keep an open mind and see what we can do by moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sold on the fit, the location and the proposed development, but, you know, I'm a big advocate for public consultation. So tonight, we're clearly discussing what the people or what the residents of Cornwall want, and we're elected to do that. So I say bring on lots of public consultation, because that's the only way we're going to move forward and against it, and keep a clear line of communication open between this table and the residents of Cornwall. So I want to say thank you very much for your hard work on that committee and the members who sit on that committee, and I certainly look forward to public consultation.
Thank you very much, Council. With the question, all those in favor, receive the report. Carried.